Hi, Michael. It's James again. I had the great fortune to have your lesson to look at again this time around. Hopefully, my feedback last time was a little bit helpful. I love the idea of deterministic screens. We talked a lot about these in our last course, if you'll remember, and I think it's a great opportunity for the kids to learn about perspective. I like the idea of having them look at YouTube videos and checking out the pros and cons of the implementation of those. They will find them funny, as you mentioned. They will kind of laugh and groan at some. But the idea of using those is fantastic. So I applaud you with all of that. I think applying this concept to writing is very important. They need to understand that when they're looking at things, they bring to it the writing, the speaking, whatever it is, some sort of perception of their own, okay? Let alone what the intent is of the original author or the speaker. So you're going to be dealing with both things in this arena. The thing that struck me at the outset is that this is a lot about propaganda. But that word never appears in your lesson plan. You might want to consider that because that's exactly what this is. The deterministic screen is what we put onto what we're looking at. It's the filter through which we see something, which we read something. And if I see an ad, I can think, oh, that's manipulative, or oh, they've really got an agenda there. And that's the screen through which I'm looking at the ad. The propaganda comes from the other direction. That's what they're trying to do, whether they're using those glittering generalities or plain folks or all that stuff that kids have already learned in high school, and you would just have to review real quickly. But you just want to make sure that you get those two things separated just a little bit. I think the assignment has very clear objectives to have them learn about deterministic screens, to identify them, to understand what is the intent behind something that they're looking at on YouTube or reading. And that's a great idea. I love the collaborative part of it. You have a goal to have them talk to each other, to work in those groups of three. You've delineated very well what each person is responsible for. And then ultimately, the paper, to put it together in an academic, scholarly way that shows that all of this information has been synthesized into something that, again, as you've mentioned, they can transfer to the real world, to recognize, and when they're confronted with all of these images and ads and everything else, the rhetoric in the world, which we all are every single day, they'll be able to identify those screens, that propaganda, everything that's coming their way. They can look at things in a different way through their own screens. I think the assignment absolutely does engage the students with the objectives that you have set. The idea of working together, the idea of having the conferences with you, and letting them go to other group members in other teams around the classroom to get feedback, to see, hey, what videos are you guys watching? Oh, that's funny, or that doesn't make any sense to me. Explain what you're thinking there. Those are the kind of questions I'm sure you're hoping will spark in the classroom, and they'll ask each other the reasons, the intent, the screens that the other kids are looking through to determine what direction their paper will take. They're looking at the ads. It's a great way to look at it. I think it does establish a high level of I almost said audience. That's my screen of classroom engagement with the kids. You have it set up that they will work with each other in those groups of three. You have it set up that they will work with you, that they will work all the way around. Plus, they're accessing the most social, community-oriented venue there is, YouTube. And again, when you show the things, as you said in your initial plan, that you're going to show them things that you've selected that have different kinds of leans to them. Again, they will have reactions to those things. They're very tech savvy. They've seen all this stuff on TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff. But for you to narrow it down and to take something that is so universal to them as their phone, as their technology, and then to bring from that a lesson, you've already started the transfer. So good for you. All in all, I think it's a great lesson. My only thing as I went through again, and this is just a suggestion, take it or leave it, was the idea of propaganda. That's really kind of the thrust of this when you're dealing with ads and messages and intents and meanings behind things. And they'll know that term. Maybe weave that in there somewhere just to anchor it just to anchor the idea, because they can understand that, well, terministic screens and propaganda are not the same thing. They are related in a little bit of a way. If I am looking at something and I look at it a different way when I misspoke and said audience early on in this video, I was looking through my terministic screen as a director, okay, my intent. I wasn't trying to propagandize anything or have an intention with you, but it did affect my perspective. So you might want to distinguish between those two things. Other than that, great job as always. I hope you have a great Christmas, and I'll talk to you soon.